We have today starting a new agenda format, and the first part will be public comment agenda. And please keep in mind that this is a business meeting of Waterworks and Lighting Commission and not a public hearing. Persons who wish to address the commission may do so, but should not expect to engage in discussion with the commissioners or expect employees of the commission to answer any specific question during the public comment period. Individuals will be allowed to speak in the order in which they have signed up, and public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual, and we have a timekeeper. And we will start with introducing ourselves. And I am Ellen Dahl, President of the Commission.
Joe Kazicki, Commissioner.
Tom Novak, Commissioner.
John Harper, Commissioner.
Mike Phillips, Commissioner.
Jeff Kuhn, Finance Director.
Todd Weiler, Engineering Director.
Dale Schuman, Water Superintendent.
Randy Anderson, Electric Superintendent.
Joel Matthews, Office Manager.
Matt Storman, Information Systems Administrator.
Kurt Overmecker, Conservation Manager. Rick Merton, Encourage Community Foundation.
Carol Cubsa, property owner.
Helen Streekstra, property owner.
Squirrel Mangus, friend of Ellen's.
And an adult daughter of Ellen.
Scott Kellogg, Alderperson, 3rd District.
Mike Zerflu, property owner and taxpayer.
John Troutman, shareholder from Shank, the audit firm.
Roxanne Gronsky, Secretary.
Thank you very much. Approval and additions and corrections to the agenda as it was mailed.
I move to approve the agenda as posted and place on file.
I'll second.
No changes, all in favor?
Aye.
Approval, additions, and corrections to the minutes of the regular commission meeting held on.
We missed number 2. We missed step 2, Ellen. Number 2 on the agenda, the public comments.
Oh, how could I miss something as good as that? I apologize. For public comment, I hope I do this in the right direction. I believe that that Helen Streekstra gave me the first one.
Actually, Carol, at this time, I thought the public comment would be at the end of the meeting, so you're all looking fine and really today, and I'm glad to be here. I have no comment.
Okay. Carol Cubsa.
Okay, I have 3 different items I wanted to bring up. One is that I have this flyer from the Public Service Commission that says delinquent municipal utility bills may be put on the transfer to the taxes on the property tax bill of the property owner. Does not say must, it says may. Second item was, I saw in the paper that you were going to talk about a lot of different conventions you're going to. I was wondering, maybe like when we go to our conventions, we bring up a topic that's current, and I thought other municipal utilities probably have the same situation as we have here, and it would be something pertinent to bring this up and have discussions at your conventions about it, how they've been handled, and for PR with everyone. And the third thing I wanted to bring up, that some of the tenants are not happy that they don't get their deposits back soon enough, because I would have to pay for their bills otherwise, and I have to wait till I get that bill back. And they were very upset that there are a lot of tenants that are not paying. And so I think that we ought to think of this as something like, you hear that every once in a while where college students have a credit card and they don't realize they got to pay it back, or somebody got a cell phone and they had a lot of fees connected with it. Seems to me this is something very similar to a lot of new tenants don't realize that these things are involved in renting a place.
Mike Zerflu.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. A couple things I wanted to talk about. One is a big reason, as everybody knows, that I'm here is similar to what Carol Cubs is here for regarding the unpaid water and sewer bills being placed onto the landlords. I think that's totally unfair, as you guys are aware. And I look at, here's the problem, how do you solve the problem? The commission and the individuals at Water and Light say the rates will go up. Well, rates, every time there's an increased weight, rates do go up. I went to the Heart of Wisconsin, had a meeting, I forget what it was called, but growing the economy. This is the State of Working Wisconsin executive summary. It says the Great Recession officially ended 3 years ago now, and the recovery is, or at least should be, well underway. But the jobs deficit remains enormous. Un- and underemployment are high. Income is down across the decade. So it goes on about that. Income is down. Why are we giving, if we're worried about the ratepayers, why are we giving rate bonuses at Water and Light? Why are we giving wage increases? The wages that Water and Light employees get are significantly higher, and I would bet you'd have, for every position, if you cut benefits across the board 10%, you would have 100 people if these people didn't want these jobs applying for the jobs. I'm not so concerned about that. I'm concerned about what's unfair, and charging us this is unfair. I have a relative of mine that lives in Mississippi, works for a water and utility company there. $8, they're mandated by law, $8 they disconnect. And their disconnects are low. She even tells people, you need to pay this bill, otherwise you're going to have this $25 reconnect fee. There's ways to do this where Water and Light will not lose any money, rates will not go up, but you need to work with us. There's ways to do it. As Carol said, you guys have the right to, we know that. You have the right to make us landlords eat this, but it's wrong. Nobody would run a business that way. It's wrong that they do that. I know you guys have the ability to do it, but it's not fair to the landlords. Do your job, collect your bills. If there's a way you could actually profit from it by having disconnect fees, work with us as landlords. I gave you security deposits. All this stuff is legal by the PSC. The reconnect fee, all this stuff is legal. Doing better screening. I know you guys say we should do better screening. We do our screening on our level. We're not here to ask you to pay for our rent. We're not asking anybody to pay for uncollected rents like you guys are. I'd love it if that was the case, but it's not the case. And I'd like to find a way that this could be up for discussion in a future meeting, and if anybody can tell me what to do. But I will be contacting you, the panel, individually to find out how I can get on the agenda. Thank you for your time.
Rick?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say was, based on previous meetings or whatever, I found out about time of day. So I was on time of day for the last month, and I saved 27%. So I wanted to thank the commission for that opportunity, and we'll continue to benefit from that. So thank you.
Scott, did you wish to speak?
Yes, as an alderperson, I am fortunate to be able to get the packet, so I'm well aware of the topics that will be presented, but I was asked to give this to someone to make copies, because if you have an agenda there, you really don't understand what's behind those items. And I know when I go to the school board meeting, you walk in, they have a packet. I'm not sure it would be as detailed as what you would have, but as an audience, to know what, rather than just a title, what's behind that title. So, and to be transparent, otherwise you come here. But I feel uncomfortable to give this to anybody, because that's, we don't have it here. So I think I would like to have you consider some type of information rather than just the agenda. Now one could say, well, that would be a lot of paper and reports and so forth, but maybe it could be compressed in some fashion. I notice here we have more visitors than when I was here the last 2 months, but maybe 5 packets or 5 some type of audience packet. I would like to have you consider, because it provides that transparency that one would want in the public sector. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay. Approval additions and corrections to the minutes of the regular commission meeting held June 12th, and to the one held on July 8th, or 9th, excuse me. So let's do the first one, June 12th.
I'll move to approve the minutes for the June 12th meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The July 9th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 9th meeting.
I'll second that.
Are we allowed to ask a question regarding this at all, as a public person or as a ratepayer?
I believe your comment is only during the time that we have public comment.
So we're not allowed to question any of this stuff?
If you are, raise your hand and an alderman recognizes you, then you may.
This might,
My question is, why did that go into closed session regarding employment compensation? Why would that be closed session?
What number are you on, Mike?
According to this is the agenda from July 9th. It says consideration of adjournment into closed session under section 19.85, which reads, considering employment, compensation, and performance evaluation data of a public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction. Why wouldn't that be open to the public for comment?
That's about personal information about employees, and that's why. You know, you were talking about somebody, their personal relationship or whatever with the commission. That's not open for...
Like if they're married and stuff like that, you mean? Or no?
What's that?
If they're married and stuff, you mean? Or
No, about what their job,
Roxanne can help answer
Yeah.
that question.
Well, part of that is, that's the way the state statute reads. It doesn't mean that everything they talked about in closed session was all 3 of the items or 4 of the items, but if you talk about any one of those items, like let's say an evaluation and things like that, that's the statute you have to
Employee
use.
value.
So the item that's always listed under it is what they would have discussed, but that's the statute that covers it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we had a motion on the July 9th. Did we have a second?
Joe second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, on our next item, action items, we'll start with the 2012 audit report, which we received.
Well, good afternoon. My name is John Troutman. Once again, I'm pleased to be in front of you discussing the most recent audit report, which is the 2012 audit of the Wisconsin Rapids Waterworks and Lighting Commission. As part of the audit package, very similar to previous years, you have 2 documents. You have the bound annual financial report, which is the financial statements, and also the audit report, auditor's report. You also have another document, which is the management communication letter. We're going to start with the annual financial report, and then we're going to spend a little bit more detail on the stapled management communication letter, which could be in the back cover or front cover of that.
What page is that, please?
What's that?
What page is it? So we, what page?
Actually, I was just talking about the 2 different documents themselves. We're going to start in the annual financial report.
Is there actually copies of that anymore?
Page 1 is where I'll start the annual financial report. That is the independent auditor's report itself. Again, this contains your financial statements and footnotes, which is the majority of the report. But on page 1, we go through really our report on the financial statements. We have audited the accompanying financial statements of the Commission and Enterprise Fund of the City of Wisconsin Rapids as of and for the year ended December 31, 2012, and the related notes to the financial statements, which collectively comprise the basic financial statements or annual financial report. So basically, long story short, is this is what this report is. We're issuing an opinion on those financial statements. It goes through a number of different informational disclosures, management's responsibility for these financial statements, auditors, our responsibility in issuing that opinion on them. And then on the bottom of the page is where we're issuing our opinion. Now this year I just want to take a few moments to explain this. We're issuing an adverse opinion, and the basis of that adverse opinion is because really the title of your statements is the City of Wisconsin Rapids Utility Commission. And what we don't want to do, and the standards require us to do, is issue an adverse opinion on that, so people picking this audit report up do not confuse it with the city's audit report. This is not the city's opinion on the city's full audit report. Your data contained in this financial statement gets repeated on the City of Wisconsin Rapids audit report, and that collectively is the government's financial statements and opinion thereof on that. So we just want to make sure we're clear on that. That is a standard, accounting standard, auditing standard we have to follow there in issuing that adverse opinion. On the top of page 2, it really goes through the analysis and explanation of that. The second paragraph, unmodified opinion. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Wisconsin Rapids Waterworks and Lighting Commission of the City of Wisconsin Rapids. So, even though we issued an adverse opinion on the city as a whole with this report, we are issuing a clean opinion on your commission financial statements here. So, any questions on that? A little bit of a difference there in past years following the standards. The standards changed a little bit there. So. Good. The rest of the page goes through really other matters that we just want to point out in this communication letter. I won't take the time to read through there. Financial statements that turn past that header page on page 3 starts with a combining statement of net position. This is effectively your balance sheet where you list your assets and your liabilities. In total, 2012 for the commission, both the electric and water utility had current assets of just under $9.9 million. Again, current assets are your more liquid assets, your cash and investments. The primary one are cash and investments and customer accounts receivable. Dropping down, you have non-current assets, again, investments that are held for more than periods of 12 months, or your capital assets, which obviously are significant. You have $70 million. Overwhelming majority of that is tied up in your plant and your equipment and so forth. Dropping down on the bottom of that page 3, you see a new category, which is deferred outflows of resources. This is not a new account. There's two different components of that asset, and that is a preliminary survey investigation. In years past, that was recorded as a deferred debit or just a typical asset, a non-current asset. The standards changed, which I'll get to in a few minutes. GASB 6365 changed things. That now just gets pulled out and it's categorized as a deferred outflow resource. What it is trying to do is align that a little bit better, make it more understanding as far as users of the statements, because that's exactly what it is. It's really not an asset. It's a deferred outflow. It's something that will be spent in future years. So. Page 4, liabilities. Go through your current liabilities, much like current assets. These are the amounts of liabilities that will be paid in the current year, in the next 12 months. Majority of that is your accounts payable and a due to an internal fund due to the city. $6,098,000 is your total current liabilities. Your non-current liabilities are your long-term debt and your other post-employment benefits of $8 million, just under $8.3 million. Total liabilities for the commission as a whole, just under $14.4 million. So then it comes down to the net position. What is the overall net position of the utility? $65,750,000, of which about $50 million of the 65 are tied up in your assets. So you can see the overwhelming majority of your net position is really tied up in your physical plant and your utility itself. $664,000 is restricted net position for debt retirement, which leaves an unrestricted net position of $15 million. Any questions on the net position statement there? Moving on to page 5. Continues in traditional format, combining statements of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, otherwise known as the income statement. Really your operations, how did the year go? You have $32 million as a whole in operating revenues, $29 million in operating expenses, and you can see the breakdown again for all this for the electric and the water. Leaving an operating income of $2.8 million overall. Then you have non-operating revenues, expenses, and again, these are debt related. You have interest income coming in, interest and fiscal charges on your debt going out. You have a positive $286,000 non-operating revenue coming in. You have capital contributions coming in below the line about $112,000. Then you have a transfer back to the city for a property tax equivalent of $1,600,000. So the total change in net position and how you got to the numbers I just referred to in the balance sheet of the net position, it was a $1,706,000 increase, bringing to that previously quoted $65,740,000. Any questions on the statement of revenues, expenditures, and change in net position?
Mike?
So if I wanted to hear right, they have $15 million plus the 1.7 of fairly liquid assets. You said 65 million, but like 50 million were
correct.
Tied up in hard assets.
Correct. 65 million is their total net position, about 50 million is tied up in assets, leaving 15, 16.
Whose cell phone? Not mine.
Any more questions on that? Otherwise, I will switch gears and go through a little bit more summarized data on the management communication letter. If you turn to the page past the table of contents, and this is a small stapled document now. This letter is titled the Management Communication Letter. It's exactly that. What it does is it pulls a lot of the same information that is contained in the engagement letter in the audit process, the opinion letter, and it pulls it into kind of a concise few pages. It really tells you what you need to know about the audit. It goes through our responsibilities under the standards we follow. It repeats some of the engagement letter language, what an audit is, what an audit isn't, your responsibilities, etc. So a lot of this is repeated. The bottom of page 1 goes through, and really the rest of the letter goes through different components of the audit. Our consideration of internal control, like I said in the beginning, an audit issues an opinion on your financial statements. It does not issue an opinion on your internal control. No audit does that. That's beyond the scope of a financial statement audit. However, we do consider your internal control. We go through, as part of the audit process, a number of different related compliance issues and audit issues. And in doing that, we really get into a lot of your internal control structure and the makeup of that. So we do issue our consideration of that. On the top of page 2 really goes through the reasoning behind that and some of the details. The third paragraph, the important one, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control or financial reporting that we consider to be material weakness. So that's a very good thing. That's what you strive for. The rest of that page goes through some different highlights per se of your financial statements we just want to bring forth in this document. Goes through some estimates that are contained in financial statements and pretty commonly contained. The biggest estimate in your financial statements is your estimate of depreciable life over those assets, that 50 million we talked about. A lot of those assets are depreciated over a period of time, and of course that estimated life is just that, an estimate. Not exactly sure how long some of that plant lasts. Now the PSE regulates a lot of that, so it's an estimate, of course, but it's a regulated estimate in the case of that. And the other major estimate is related to other post-employment benefits. And again, that's a liability that's brought forth on your financial statements based on benefits post-retirement. And that is based entirely on an actuarial report. Well, an actuarial report is just that, a set of estimates based on factors and so forth. Any questions on any of that? The rest of page 3 really goes through just some highlights, some need-to-know information, nothing really significant to report on any of that. We did not have any major issues with the audit, no disagreements with management and so forth. Anything like that, of any particular nature like that would be in here. So happy to report things went very well. Page 4 through, I believe, 8 is your management representation letter. That's really the letter that concludes the audit process. That's all the representations you've made to me in order for me to do the audit, in order for our firm to do the audit. And those are things like we've made available the proper, correct records, and we're not aware of any issues that you haven't notified me about and so forth. So very important letter. It becomes part of this document just as a matter of reference. Page 9 brings in much the same data that we just went through, but in summarized form and a little bit different format, a little bit more summarized and a little bit better to make decisions and discussion on. Goes through your operating results and rate of return. And I'm going to skip right down to the numbers on the bottom section there and work my way from bottom up. Electric utility for 2012. The authorized rate of return that you have set, the PSC was 7%. Your actual rate of return was 2.38. Now, if we look at the components of that, your two components of that are your average rate base and then your operating income. And the average rate base is for the electric utility in 2012 was $27,098,000. And comparing that to $645,000 in operating income gets a rate of return of 2.38. That went down from 5.39 in electric from a year ago. Major component of that, of course, is your average rate base went from $24 million to $27 million, and then your operating income went according to the PSC, went from 1.3 million to 645,000. Same set of data on the right column for the water. Your authorized rate of return for 2012 remained at 6% as filed with the PSC, and your actual rate of return was 4.46. So both utilities are operating below your authorized rate of return. The components of the water, 21 million average rate base compared to 978,000 of operating income. So again, both data sets there for electric and water, and both were down a little bit from last year. Any questions on that or the makeup of that return?
Sorry. So
Go ahead, Mike.
was the profit then from the water, how much was that last year? Or will you get to that?
The profit for the water. The operating income per the audit, which again, you have a regulatory body, that's what it says, operating income per audit, operating income per PSC, those are different. Those are different because the regulatory body, Public Service Commission, has a different set of accounting rules, so that's the only difference there. Operating income per audit we'll focus on. Water 2011 was $1,649,000. This year was $1,561,000.
That was a profit.
That was profit. Operating income, not profit. Operating income. $1,932,000 in 2011 for the electric, down to $1,288,000 for 2012.
Joe.
Any other questions? The final page really gets to what I was referring to when I discussed the statement of net position, and that's really just an opportunity here to inform you of what the new standard is, and effective this year. It's two standards, GASB 63 and GASB 65. There's a little bit of a technical difference between the two, but really they're together, one change. Implementing them together is the proper way to do that. So what those did, they just changed some things around on your balance sheet, on your net position, statement of net position, and got things into more of a logical category for users of the statements to better understand those statements. Any questions in general over the audit or other pages you want me to go through? I'm wide open.
Yes, Mike?
I'm just operating income, can you define what the profit was then for the water portion?
The operating profit is not a term that's correct, but the operating profit, I think, is what you're talking about, is that line.
Okay.
But what that doesn't take into consideration is non-operating, meaning debt costs, interest income, and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
If there's no other questions, can we have a motion to accept the audit as?
I move to approve the 2012 audit report.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next is the APPA deed membership. Motion to approve it.
That was in Kurt's package, correct?
Yep, yeah, of conservation master report.
Right.
Can you expand on that a little bit, Kurt? Exactly what deed does?
Yeah, so it's part of APPA, which everybody's familiar with, correct, the American Public Power Association. And it's a kind of a research and arm of it. And so what they do is they provide information for participating members on, you know, what are some best practices. They provide grants for people to do research. So one of the bigger success stories is Waverly Light and Power in Iowa. That was where coming up with soy-based oils for transformers, where that research came from. So they applied for a grant from DEED and was able to come up with that. And so now I think pretty much all transformers have that soy-based oil in it. So that's one type of thing. They provide webinars that are information topics so that you can have access to a lot of different information for. And it's primarily focused on efficiency, conservation, and renewable energy projects.
Are there any projects you or Todd are looking at that maybe we could qualify for a grant?
At this point, I don't think we have, I think we kind of like to get in and kind of see what's all going on. And then if we have a project, then we can apply for a grant. At this point, it's a little bit more access to information. They provide grants, but I mean, it's, you know, it's a cost share thing. So if we have a project that we think we're really interested in, then it's something we should look at applying for.
But even if you're an APPA member, you don't have access to some of this information?
No.
Okay. You said it's a separate branch, really?
Or
at least the research.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's an area of focus that regular membership doesn't cover that cost.
Okay.
D.
Thank you. So I would make the motion to join the APPA membership, being a deed member.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Deed.
Yeah, you said APPA.
We are an APPA member, but I would like to get membership as a deed member also.
Gotcha.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I'd like to say nay.
The next NISC Member Information Conference. Which is in September. And I believe that 4 commission employees would like to attend this information conference in St. Louis.
Now, Jeff, this is the computer software we're already using.
This is the software that you purchased back in June, or we went live with in June, and they have an annual member conference. It's in St. Louis, and they have multiple concurrent sessions going on, which is why we want to send multiple employees, at least the first year. Get a better understanding for the things that we don't know yet about the system or new things that have come. They are offering releases probably every 3 months. New enhancements to the system, so we just want to make sure we're keeping current with that.
With the concurrent sessions, I didn't really see much of a format or topic, so is that more of an open panel type discussion?
So during like one of the concurrent sessions, there might be 8 or 10 topics going on at that time.
Okay.
Covering customer service, accounting.
Okay.
Gives you opportunities to talk to some of the developers to see what's coming down the road and maybe, getting enhancements that you might like into the system, talking to them at that time.
So there are some specific topics that you can have someone attend that one?
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
I guess, you're looking for a motion?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to make a motion that Jeff and 4 of the office people go to that training session.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes, Mike?
Wouldn't that be 4 nights in a hotel? I mean, you're going to have to go there on Mondays in St. Louis, right?
It starts, we'll drive down on Tuesday and come back on Friday, so it'll be 3 nights.
So you're going to leave at like 4 in the morning?
It starts in the evening on Tuesday.
Or you're going to miss part of the thing on Tuesday?
It's about a 7-hour drive, so we'll leave at 7 and get there at 3.
And is there a reason why, I apologize, is Shannon a man or a woman?
She's she's one of our.
Is that a man or a woman?
It's a woman.
Why couldn't Shannon and Lynn share a room and you share a room? That'd cut your hotel cost in half.
I don't think that's legal.
We don't do that, Mike.
Why not?
Personal issues.
What's that?
Personal issues.
Okay, just checking.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Focus on energy.
So I got word from them that we will not be able to do the Express Efficiency Program this year. They're all booked up for this calendar year, but we are on the calendar for next year. That's a program where they come in and meet with homeowners directly and do some compact restaurant replacements, and they sit down with customers and kind of cover some of the programs. So that'll be coming up next year. And they have a retro commissioning program, which is geared towards businesses. I already contacted a few businesses in town that I think would be a good fit for that program. It's kind of getting people that are in between, so our really large industrial customers already have really great hands-on service. Focus on energy and smaller ones kind of fit in some of that programs. So that program that's coming.
I believe that, will it also include rental property? I know that a couple years ago, Focus of Energy was in Sparta, and they came into an apartment line and completely did all the hall lights and everything like that.
There are some programs there, I don't know the name off the top of my head, what is specifically addressing apartments and condos right now. This particular program would be for anything that's 3 units or less, so they're looking for the single-family homes.
Did we have it this last year?
It's not a program that I run into too much, so I can't remember which ones they've done it. But it's been on and off a couple times. So.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't aware that they actually were doing it for individual homes. So.
That's just started. They've never done that in the past.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for him? Otherwise, Great Lakes Utility. We have a motion on it.
Jem isn't here.
Jem isn't here. The reason that our general manager is not here today is he had a meeting that he was required to be to, otherwise he would have been. The next thing, we're going to department updates, and we will start with the safety committee. Is there any questions on it? We will not be using.
I guess the only question I have is for Dale. MU is no longer involved in the safety meeting. How's that going now? You're obviously continuing your safety meetings and things. You find it as beneficial as before, or is it just gonna?
Yeah, right now we're addressing topics on a monthly basis, but it's not as good or as thorough, so to speak, as MUW or when Safety Cindy is here to take care of the documentation and everything else and keep things rolling. So
that's going to start up again, is the way I understand it.
I'm actually interviewing candidates in Marshfield next week with other GMs that we share the safety person with. So hopefully we'll find a candidate next week.
All right, thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have one question about old business. What are concrete blades? Concrete blades. So you had trouble with
blades
them?
used for cutting concrete.
Oh, okay.
Turbines or.
I get it. Well, what was the problem? They're breaking, or?
We had, from a certain vendor we were using, we had 2 different vendors we used, and from that one particular vendor, the blades actually broke and blew apart.
Yeah.
So we discontinued using that company and their product.
Good.
I would consider that very dangerous.
Can be very dangerous. They're very lucky.
Were you able to resolve the issues with the safety cones blocking the taillights on
Chad
the
is working on it. He's trying to get something inside the truck rather than in front of the light.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no other questions, line superintendent. Any questions for Sandy?
Randy, on the dead end bells,
Yep.
are those American made?
Those probably not, but they're porcelain.
See, I can recall one when we had to go to Rock Falls years ago, because all of their dead end bells on the transmission were all Japanese made.
Yeah. With the porcelain, either, with the APP or APA and stuff, it's almost impossible to get them anymore. So we've been going to the new type, the polymer type.
Okay.
So.
Is it unusual for the dead end bells to fail?
In the past we have, yeah.
Rick?
Yeah, I saw the number of squirrel outages was up again. Now, how's that, you guys were going along that process, right?
Yeah, one of our budget items this year, Rick, was to purchase some of the squirrel guards for the transformers, because last year after I did my study, we found that 60% or more of all outages are caused by squirrels. The line item that we had was kind of a trial basis for this year, so we had enough squirrel guards purchased for 10% of the system, and we did put those on. Comparing 2013 with 2012, It looks like our outages for squirrels are down, but the outages that we're seeing are in the areas that we haven't put the guards on. So in 2014, we'll continue having that in the budget as a line item to keep installing them.
So just for clarification then, is that, do the guards make it impossible or just less likely?
Less likely.
Less likely, okay, that's where I was going,
Yep.
these three were all in the
Yes.
Was
In
there
the
squirrel-friendly lines.
Correct, correct.
was there any squirrels that got into the squirrel protector ones?
On what we're putting them on is the bushings of the transformers. On those bushings, we haven't seen any problems, but there's also what's called a combination switch by the transformer that doesn't have a guard on it, and they still get in that. So we're still looking at more options for
Makes
that.
sense.
Yep.
Randy, would you like to provide an update on the Spring Street feeder project?
Spring Street, after this morning, all the customers in Deeren are on our 13.2 now. They came in there this morning and transferred everything over all the way up 54, so all the Deeren customers are ours now, so.
Good.
Yeah, and I'd like to commend the line crew for doing such a good job this morning. We were all in at 5 o'clock transferring to customers because we needed to take a short outage, 5 minutes to do that. So, but it worked flawlessly. We didn't have any problems.
Good.
Yep.
Good job. Were the customers notified of the 5 minute outage?
The industrial customers and commercial customers were notified. The residential customers were not.
Okay. Thank you.
You were hoping they weren't up yet.
That was our hope.
It was on Twitter and Facebook.
Okay, Water Department operation? No questions? Office manager report.
Joel, it looks like you reached a peak of 314 customers on June 3rd. Is the staff still able to handle that load and keep the lines minimal?
And we typically see that kind of walk-in traffic and the weather's good. And fortunately, the commission provided us with a summer help employee, so we've got essentially 2 receptionists working the front, so
Okay.
yeah. Without that, it'd really be a stretch. It would be hard to do.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by the commission? Director of Finance.
I'm looking, you made a statement about the financial reports. The January 2012 billing would have included water charges from November to January, but the January 2013 billing would only include water charges as far as January of 2013. So therefore, we're a little bit off.
You're just a little bit off on, until we get to that cycle when we started doing monthly billing again.
Okay.
The numbers aren't going to compare apples to apples, so.
That was my only question.
Okay, Information Systems Specialist. Any questions for Matt?
You had some frequency interference, and then you found out, what was causing that issue. Now, what can we do to avoid this in the future?
Unfortunately, we use the unlicensed frequency range at the 900 megahertz, which they can use. I mean, the old cordless phones use them, garage door openers use them, all kinds of devices use that 900 megahertz range.
Right.
We haven't run into a problem in 3 years, but now we ran into one. We were able to work around it. We weren't able to find the cause, but we were able to work around the issue.
Do we need to look at using a different frequency then?
That's what we're looking into. We got a couple of different options to look at.
Okay, good.
Could that have been a contractor or something moving in at a certain time and?
We think it's a wireless internet provider.
Oh.
We think. We don't know for sure. but that's kind of where we're leaning because they use very high energy output to reach their, their line of sight distance. And we trace the interference along one line. So we lost basically 3 pieces of equipment within that line of sight.
I see.
Can they get in and get our information?
No, all of our communications are encrypted.
Any other questions for Matt?
Rick?
Yeah, just how's the GIS project going?
The GIS project is going well. We got through the pilot project, and we got that all verified. We actually went through with the field collection guy today, and went through some issues that we ran into. But yeah, they'll be starting up again tomorrow.
Any surprises or any?
No, actually they did extremely well. It was just a matter of terminology. They called it one thing, we called it something else. So we had to get that all straightened out.
Who won?
What's that?
Who won?
Who won the bid?
No.
Oh, we win.
We win, okay, all right.
Okay, Conservation Manager. Any more questions for Kurt? Okay, Engineering Supervisor.
Are there any projects, future projects with the city replacing some of the street lights with LED?
Well, as you probably noticed, 8th Street is in dire need of an upgrade. I would like to start trying to work with the city to come up with a plan for those lights. The only other thing that's happening at the moment is on First Street, right by the Jackson Street Bridge as it goes up to the courthouse. That area is planned to be redone by the city starting this fall and going into next spring. And the decorative lights that we put on that small stretch of West Grand from the bridge to 4th Avenue there, it'll be that type of light that's going to be used in that portion as well when they redo that project. So we're kind of slowly getting the downtown to these newer LED lights that have been working really well for us. I would like to do something in the future where we replace all of the lights on 8th Street with a Cobra style LED light.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have a question, a question mark on some of the most efficiently run electric utilities have the highest rates because they have high power supply costs, which represents 65 to 85% of the utility cost structure. And with us, our biggest expense is the cost of our electricity that we then sell on to others.
Yep.
But I was surprised that it was most efficient if they had a higher rate.
It really wasn't meant that way, Ellen. What they were trying to get at when they were telling us that is you can be the most efficiently run utility in the United States and your ratepayers might still be paying some of the higher rates in the United States. It all is based usually for an electric utility on the rate they're paying for their power because it makes up such a huge portion of their bill.
Which is basically what we have here.
Yes, correct. Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Do you have, for your first bullet point there, do you know what is the average age?
I don't know the average age. It just said that utilities have the highest proportion of baby boomers of any other industry, and 3 out of every 5 workers are of the age 41 to 59. And what the major concern is from the line crew and on the engineering side, so many people are going to be retiring that they don't actually right now think they're going to have enough people to fill those positions.
And just so you know, I mean, working with the paper companies, depending on which paper company, their average age is in the 50s.
Okay.
So they're staring at that
same statistic. Okay.
When we provide scholarships each year, we usually provide them with people who are going into our industry.
So nuclear power is going to become more?
Yeah, that was probably, to me, that was one of the more interesting sessions that I attended. They have 2 companies that are making modular nuclear power plants, And their design is to have just smaller plants that can go up more quickly. And because we're leaning more towards wind energy and solar energy, well, wind energy and solar energy is dependent on either the sun or the wind. And so you still need some type of plant that can do your base load. And with the industry trying to get away from coal, they're trying to look at what are they going to use instead of coal. And so these modular nuclear plants is the way they're going now. Because of all the regulations that they have to go through with a new design, they're saying that it won't be till probably 2030 until these plants are actually operational.
And they feel they'll be pretty safe?
Yes, very safe. In fact, the biggest problem with the nuclear plant is if you lose power, how do you cool the reactor back down? And all of these plants, because they're modular and they have smaller reactors, they'll have enough water capacity right on the plant, and they can use gravity to actually have the cooling water enter the reactor and cool down the plant. So you won't have that catastrophe like they had in Japan.
Interesting.
Yep.
Was there any questions on the general manager report?
I do, but I'll save that. Alan?
Yes.
Can I, under the general manager's report, he reported about attending the APPA conference. And to answer the young lady back there, I also attended. And the reason I haven't written or said too much about it is the day I got back, I was ready into surgery. So I haven't fully recovered. But as I told Ellen and everybody yesterday, it was educational. I really had my eyes open and was able to attend quite a few meetings once I figured out where they were. Anybody who goes through that place down there doesn't get lost. They ought to have a map company of their own.
For those of you who don't know where he was, you should tell them.
Oh, I think, Opryland.
Oh, yeah.
10 acres under one roof and dead ends like you wouldn't believe.
Mr. Secretary, is there any correspondence today?
Yes, we do. I won't read each one, but there's several here from the Washington Mini Adventures class, summer class. Thanking for the tour. That's basically it, but they pointed out some items that drew some interest to them, so I thank Dale for touring the class. Then from Rita Newman from 2720 Bridgewood Trail. This was dated June 14th. This was addressed to Jim. The subject was flushing a fire hydrant on June 11th. On June 11th, the fire hydrant flushing on Ridgewood Trail flooded my garden. This is a thank you to the supervisory employees for coming to check on the damage so quickly. My thanks and compliments go to Jeff Scherer, who checked and had a solution. And on June 12th, at his direction, Brett Anderson with Cole Paulson came with a load of black dirt and filled in the path of the flooded areas. My thanks and compliments go to these men. You can be proud of their role in this. Another one is from Ward 1 Alderperson Chad Worrell, and this was directed to Jem Brown, who is our general manager. Thank you for your in-kind donation of water for our first annual spring cleanup day. Ward 1 volunteers are grateful to you. The team really worked up a good thirst. You were such a vital part to our success of our first annual spring cleanup day. We truly appreciate the generosity and the pure Wisconsin Rapids refreshing water.
Thank you.
That concludes the correspondence.
Okay, did everybody review the accounts payable, and do you have any questions?
I do that. Yeah, B&B paving. See,
On
total
page?
about $17,900.
This is on page 1.
Page 1.
Okay.
And there's a number of addresses. I take it
Those are for
water main breaks
street
and
repairs and so forth.
they're all probably through from the beginning of the year where you could first get to it.
We quit blacktopping about the middle of November, so from that time on, your water break season,
Yeah.
roads are dry, so it's the spring fix.
It was just, I didn't think we had property all over like, maybe paving.
John, did you have any?
No, I didn't have any questions this time.
Me either. That has
Jeff
to
must
be.
be doing a good job.
Commission report on the AWWA annual conference. Who is to give that?
Well, I just included in the packet to
Right.
let the commissioners know which sessions I attended.
I thank you for that, John. It was informative. Thank
Very,
you.
very good.
Make me feel bad.
No, I wasn't trying to do that.
Well, he probably didn't have an operation when he came back.
He can write.
Oh, you did right, okay. Before I adjourn, I just want to say welcome to all of you, and today's a sort of special day. It's my 90th birthday, and I have a birthday cake back there, so you're all welcome to stay and have cake. And I'll have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.